Hey guys, we're back for another episode of Meet the Residents. Today we have Zishaan Farooqui, Dr. Zishaan Farooqui, which is going to be really neat to talk with him because he is just finishing up his intern year. Zishaan, do you want to say hi to everybody?
How's it going? How's it going, everybody?
So we're going to start a little bit just learning about Zishaan, where he's from, where he grew up.
Yeah, I'm from Chicago. That's usually the first thing I tell people about myself. Um, I represent Chicago pretty hard. So I grew up there, kind of south suburbs, south side-ish. Went to University of Chicago for undergrad, and then ended up at Michigan for medical school. So yeah.
So you may or may not know Dr. Dimmick. Shout out to Dr. Dimmick. He's surgery chair.
Yeah. I know Dr. Dimmick. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. He doesn't know me. I'll tell you that.
That's
But I
okay. It's the
remember
same
him.
situation. We're good.
Yeah, yeah.
So tell us a little bit about, I know that you took a little bit of a different route to surgery.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I guess I'd say it started off, third and fourth year. You kind of always you're kind of trying to figure out, surgery or not surgery. And I think the way I always kind of tell this is I would say I got what I would call bad advice. People said, if you could see yourself doing something else, you should do that. So I'm like, oh, okay, anyone can do anything else. I won't do so. I'll listen to people and not do surgery. And I always wanted to treat kids, and so I ended up going into pediatrics, which is very well, I find out it's pretty different from surgery. And by the time even when I was a fourth year, I kind of had the feeling like I was kind of missing out, and I kind of had like pangs of regret. And then throughout intern year of pediatrics, I just thought I feel like I should be in the OR. I just kind of really missed the OR. Kind of went through first year, and then I switched it up. And happy to talk about kind of the process and all that too. But I decided kind of surgery was the right field for me. So.
So 2 years into
Yeah.
pediatrics, you decided to change course and go into surgery.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah.
what kind of challenges did you face there is one question. And also, I guess, what was that breaking point, that crossroads for you where you knew that you needed to switch?
Yeah. So I'll start off with the second question. So yeah, it was actually, kind of I was talking about there was always kind of this chronic like inkling that I should have switched over. I kind of missed the OR. And then the other thing was actually a little bit of a personal issue, not too bad, but my dad got sick. He had oropharyngeal cancer, and kind of the way it's ENT, it's not gen surge, but he had to get radiation, he had to get chemo, he had to get surgery, and I just felt like the doctors who took care of him were the surgeons. They were the ones who were kind of on the front lines. They were the ones who were kind of following up the most with him, even though it's a multidisciplinary treatment for him, but he really the people at the forefront and who we kind of relied on, who we looked to, were the surgeons. And that's kind of, to me, that was just like, I gotta be this, I gotta fulfill this role for myself. So yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And so now you've completed your intern year.
Mhm.
How was
Yeah.
that? So everyone's going to be,
Yeah.
I'm excited to hear about it. I don't even remember anymore. I don't know if I
Yeah.
deleted it or what happened.
Yeah.
But we have you hot off the press.
No, intern year was good. Intern year was good. Yeah, I feel like I learned a lot. Advice to kind of the incoming interns. You feel like, I felt like, I would never get to the point where I'd be able to do like a central line, for example. And people who kind of know, like my seniors know that I've been like panicking about it this whole time. But it just one day it just clicks, and I think that's probably true for for a lot of things. Um, you know, Now for me right now it's Castro's. Like I'm terrified of using like the Castro for vascular net. But I feel like if centralized can click, then I'm optimistic that other things will click too. So yeah, it was good. I like it. I like kind of that progress that you can see and feel. So yeah.
What do you remember? And you may not, but what is the first month of intern year? What was the main, what was your mental mindset? Where were you? What was going on compared to like the last month of intern year?
Yeah, that's a good question. For me, I mean, first month of intern year was a little bit different. I was on Altamire at that time, and Altamire is generally it's kind of a lighter service, so I think that helped me. And the other thing was, I was just coming off of, again, like I was a pediatric resident, so I was a second year pediatric resident, and I was in the ICU, pediatric ICU, so like. Uh, again, you're not doing as many procedures, but you're still kind of doing, making complex decisions, and or kind of contributing and thinking about complex decisions. So to me, it wasn't, that wasn't like the part that was really tough. For me, it was just more getting used to the procedures and being in the OR, which I hadn't had that same experience. So I think that was really tough, is just getting comfortable with the OR and kind of the way surgery works and the pace of surgery. But you get used to it, and it's fun. It's more fast paced and fun. So yeah. And in terms of kind of going into second year, being the SICU senior, that's what's scary. Yeah.
Yeah. They're both. I just remember they were both great. I'm a couple years past that now, so
yeah.
You keep all the good memories.
Yeah, you forget
There's so much to talk about. I know you have a PhD. What is your PhD in?
Yeah, so it's in epigenetics and genetics. So what we did is kind of the easiest way to probably explain it is we gave lead to mice, to pregnant mice in utero, let their babies grow in utero, and once they were 9 months, and they were born, and once they were like 9 months or at different phases of development, we basically harvested their brains and looked at their neuroepigenetics. So we wanted to see whether or not an early life exposure, environmental exposure, can modify your genome-wide methylation, and we found that it does. And we correlated to expression, and we were able to publish on it. So I think it was a good kind of mix of basic science and public health.
When did you do that?
So I did an MD PhD. I did in the middle of so I've taken a long route to surgery. I did in the middle of so I did 2 years of med school, 4 years of 4 years of PhD, and then 2 years of finishing med school. Yeah.
And I know for here at UC, we have 2 years of research that we do. So I'm just coming back from that. So 2 years in the middle.
Yeah.
Is this something that some of the work that you've done previously, something that you want to continue, or what are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a while. Yeah, so I guess, I mean, you kind of have to think about it in terms of, one of my mentors was recently telling me, like, if the field that you worked in hasn't changed, then it probably wasn't that important, right?
Right.
So I'm sure there's been a lot of change in the field I was in. Not I'm sure, I know that there has been. So I don't exactly know where I would fit exactly what I did, but I think I would fit in kind of the concepts and kind of the basic molecular tools that I learned. I feel like are broadly applicable. I would see if I could try to apply those.
Okay, so now you're telling me epigenetics, pediatrics, and now surgery. So what are your interests now in moving forward?
So I came into, kind of one of the things that kind of brought me to Cincinnati was, first of all, they're supportive, right? It's a pretty unorthodox decision to take a pediatric resident, and so I'm very grateful for the program for doing that, for thinking outside the box. But also, I mean, it has a great, Cincinnati Children's is a great program here. So for me, I'm thinking pediatric surgery. I think that's, and probably an academic career in pediatric surgery would probably be the most, probably be the thing that makes most sense if I can pull it off. So
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
And another question I have, I'm sure that, or I don't know, but because of the route that you chose, or how that kind of developed for you, what challenges did you face when you made that switch, or resistance you encounter for potential applicants that maybe are going about it a different way, or on an alternative route? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, in some ways it was really tough. But in other ways, I would say the things that made it easier were like supportive people. So I have to give a big shout out to both UC surgery program, the Gen Surg program here. Dr. Sussman, obviously, for kind of giving me that chance. Dr. Tiao, who was he's a ped surgeon over at Children's, and he was very supportive. Sorry?
I said, we know Dr. Tiao.
Yeah, we know Dr. Tiao well. Yeah, and as well as Dr. Pointer, and she's the program director over at Pediatrics, the pediatric residency program. So those, kind of like the leadership at both Cincy Children's as well as the Gen Surg program here was very supportive. And so I think, and I put the work in. So I did a month-long pediatric surgery rotation as a peds resident, and I kind of just worked hard there. And then I did 2 weeks of ACS as well. So I was kind of like a sub-I as a resident, and kind of that was my kind of trial period. And so that was helpful. I will say, I did apply very broadly, and that was tough. And so for people who are trying to switch fields, one advice that I would give, or one piece of advice that I would give is really, really kind of go hard at your home programs, because they're the people who see you face to face, and they know kind of what your motivations are in a deeper way. Whereas, it was really tough to kind of make that sell to outside programs. So yeah.
Was it just that they seemed to feel that they weren't convinced, they didn't understand why?
Yeah, so I think like I actually got an email from a program. I don't even remember who, what program it was, but it was just like, we're not taking non-traditional applicants at this time. That was it. So it's hard to get like a feel for exactly what the issues were. But yeah, I think from my understanding, it just seems like, I think that, if you're switching, especially from something like pediatrics into something like surgery, I just feel like there's cultural barriers that a lot of programs don't necessarily feel comfortable with.
Sure.
And so, kind of knowing that, knowing the person on a, personal level probably makes things easier.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I'm going a little bit in reverse order because I was so excited about you finishing your intern year and your PhD.
Yeah.
Where did you grow up? Do you have brothers and sisters? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I grew up, so I was actually born in India, moved here when I was like a year old. So that's why, I say I'm from Chicago. I was born in India. My brother and sister were both born here. So I have a sister who's a pediatrics resident over in Toledo. And she's younger. She's 2 years younger than me. And I have a brother who's applying to med school who's 10 years younger than me. So, yep.
Are your mom and dad or anybody in your family medical or in the medical field?
No. My dad is a pharmacist. My mom's a school teacher. So they're just typical kind of
teacher. I always have to call her and ask her for tips for some of the medical students, or when I'm like struggling.
You said your mom's a school teacher?
My little sister.
Oh, your little sister.
She's an adult now, but I still call her my little sister.
Yeah. Nice.
Awesome. So I think with the, I always like to end on having a little bit of, you already gave us some advice about the non-traditional route and how important having those face-to-face, in-person connections, and really how you put in some work doing the extra rotations to get in. Yeah. But in general, I know that a lot of the medical students are going to be interviewing virtually this year.
Yeah.
Any advice that you have for them, and so those fourth-year medical students, but also for maybe some of the medical or third-year medical students who aren't sure and maybe in a position like you were about pursuing a career in surgery?
Yeah, I'll answer I think what the easier question is first. Okay. I think the easier question is about the med students who aren't sure. I think you have to make more of a, rather than kind of a process of elimination decision, which is what I think a lot of people do, is like, I can't, I can't see myself doing anything else, so I'll do surgery. I feel like you should kind of make a positive decision towards it, right? Kind of take it into your own hands and kind of really own it. That's something I kind of wish I had done earlier, but I think surgery is a great field. So if you're thinking that you want to do it, but you're worried about the hours or the work or the stress, it's not worth worrying about it. I think if you really like it, then you should just go ahead and just do it. And then for kind of the fourth years applying, this is tough. I think the times of COVID are tough. I think at least I can probably speak slightly for, kind of the Cincinnati program, is I feel like the residents here are very open to talking to people. So I would say reach out to us, if you kind of see these videos, or if you see, kind of the residents who are involved in the program, kind of recruitment, just feel free to reach out to us. I'm sure, we'll be happy to kind of give you the honest assessment. We won't, at Cincinnati, we don't sugarcoat things, right? Which is one of the things I like about this program. So I would say just actively reach out to us. And unfortunately, the applicants are going to have to work harder to do that. That's just the way it is.
A little bit of extra work. I will add a plug though. We do have a virtual happy hour coming up on the 30th. So if you haven't signed up, you should. You can go to our Twitter account or our Instagram account at UC Cincy Surge if you haven't seen it. But Anyhow, any last words, Dr. Farooqui?
No, I don't think so. I don't
Okay.
think so. Just good luck to all the applicants. I think everybody will land, I think where they're supposed to. I think everyone will do well. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on with us,
Yeah,
everyone.
thanks
Thank
for
you
having me.
again for being on our Meet the Residents. I hope you're enjoying these videos. Please give us your feedback so we can make adjustments. And as I mentioned, if you haven't signed up for our virtual happy hour, please do so. Dr. Farooqui, thank you for coming on with us, and congratulations on getting through your intern year. What an accomplishment.
Yeah.